Yes, energy drinks, they promise more energy, a sharp head, more performance. But, of course, critics call them sugar or caffeine bombs or even worse. And as I just explained, one thing is certain. Even one energy drink can be too much if you're unlucky. Whether Red Bull, Monster Energy or whatever they are called. Energy drinks have now arrived in our supermarkets and the cans can be found everywhere. And almost every time I'm at the checkout, someone puts these cans on the conveyor belt, always an energy drink. Almost 8.5 million people, a whopping 8.5 million people, have reached for an energy can in the last fortnight, in the last 2 weeks, so to speak, in order to perform better at work or school, perhaps at sport, to show more stamina, or, as I said, for better athletic performance or simply because it tastes good. This is also a major danger, which I'll talk about in a moment. And at the same time, each of us knows that energy drinks are unhealthy or should at least know it. So how does this fit together? Why is that? Is it true or is it perhaps not true at all? Are energy drinks dangerous and bad for our health? And do they really lead to deaths? As is sometimes reported in the media and on the internet, especially among children? So where is the limit at which energy drinks become harmful? If you drink 1 can a month, is that even a bad thing? I'll give you answers to that now. Hello, my name is Dr. Tobias Wagel, and with my YouTube channel, I would like to make a contribution to medical, understandable, and correct information about diseases, causes of this disease, and what we can do about it ourselves. And of course, our diet is a fundamental part of it. If you don't want to miss anything, subscribe to my channel. The group that consumes energy drinks most frequently is young adults between the ages of 20 and 29. 1 in 3 20 to 29-year-olds reaches for an energy drink several times a month. At school in particular, it is increasingly noticeable how many children and young people bring such drinks with them, drink them during the break or during exams. Can this be healthy in the long term? Nevertheless, these drinks are not banned. Let's take a look at the advantages and disadvantages of energy drinks so that you now know exactly what these small cans do to you. Whether this is true at all, and above all, what you need to look out for. What's in energy drinks anyway? Energy drinks contain a number of mostly little-known ingredients. The most relevant ones that most people are familiar with are caffeine and taurine. Caffeine is the ingredient in energy drinks, which is actually the best known. We know it from coffee. And the caffeine, that is of course the substance that is supposed to wake you up, has a performance-enhancing effect and, as I said, is also found in coffee and cola. The wake-up effect of caffeine is also relatively well scientifically proven. And we know that with coffee, for example, 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day is actually healthy, but you shouldn't drink more than 6 or 7 cups. Anyway, back to the energy drink, we know here is the first problem. Which performance should actually be increased and how long does the effect of caffeine, for example, last? In my opinion, for example, these are relatively spongy advantages with currently unknown disadvantages of the energy drink, which I will also go into later. You have to balance it out, so to speak. When it comes to caffeine content, energy drinks are roughly comparable to coffee. A cup of coffee contains between 50 and 100 milligrams of caffeine, depending on how strong it is. For energy drinks, the maximum value for caffeine has been regulated in Germany since 2012 and is 320 milligrams per liter. Of course, that's more than there is in a cup of coffee. The manufacturers are usually pretty close to this. This results in 80 milligrams of caffeine per can of energy drink, which is about as much as a cup of coffee. The taurine contains a maximum amount of 4,000 milligrams per liter, and this ingredient is also said to have a stimulating effect. However, the effect has not yet been clearly proven. In addition to these substances, taurine and caffeine, it also contains other substances such as glucuronolactone. This is a carbohydrate that is said to have antioxidant effects. L-carnitine is also often included. The latter, L-carnitine, is also associated with a positive effect on fat metabolism. But this is definitely still a matter of discussion and has not been conclusively proven. The high sugar content should also be mentioned. Yes, there is definitely a lot of sugar in many energy drinks. Energy drinks are often full of sugar, approximately 11%. That's the equivalent of 9 sugar cubes in such a small can, about the same amount as in lemonade. And nobody calls them somehow performance enhancing, that you have more power because there is so much sugar in them. What do energy drinks do to children? Children are not little adults. And that's why you should be careful with energy drinks here. Caffeine is not harmful in itself. On the contrary, it has many effects that have a positive impact on your health. And I've already said that you can and should drink 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day with a clear conscience. However, the dose is crucial and the maximum dose is reached much more quickly in children and adolescents than in adults. The European Food Safety Authority states that people between the ages of 3 and 18 should consume a maximum of 3 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight per day. So, a teenager weighing around 50 kilos would already be over the maximum dose after 2 cans. That's the thing to remember. And that only takes into account the caffeine from energy drinks. I just mentioned more substances in it, such as taurine and L-carnitine. For many who are even lighter, weigh less than 50 kilos, we are moving into dangerous quantities from the second dose onwards. The problem is, many who drink energy drinks regularly also do so for pleasure. It just tastes great. Really good, because it's a very sweet drink. Flavorings and the high sugar content are downright addictive. And in my opinion, that's one of the main dangers for young people. You can't taste the sugar in soft drinks, in this sweet stuff, in energy drinks, so you're more likely to drink far too much, especially children, of course. And studies prove this again and again, such as this one from the year 2013. Over half of all poisoning cases in which energy drinks played a role involved children under, and this must be remembered, under the age of 6. Children under 6 years old drank energy drinks regularly. And how they even get the stuff is, of course, the next big question. But it happens. When does it become too much? Symptoms of an overdose? What then happens in our bodies? Typically, there is a racing heart, palpitations, a high pulse, etc. And this can actually be dangerous. You suddenly feel it yourself. You are very restless. You feel your heart pounding. And cardiac arrhythmias can actually be fatal, especially in children and adolescents with heart defects. And often you may not even know that you have it or that you may have unrecognized, unknown high blood pressure. They are at risk with too much caffeine. Fortunately, manufacturers in Germany are now even obliged to put a label on the can, and it says, not recommended for children, pregnant or breastfeeding women. It is questionable whether this will achieve much, but at least it has to be written on it. It must also be clear that the drink has an increased caffeine content. It remains to be seen how much such warnings actually change behavior. We also see it on cigarette packets, where there's a cancer patient or something on it. I don't know how much of a deterrent that is, but at least it has to be written on them now. Hangover mood inevitable? Energy drinks and alcohol. And that's super interesting. Vodka or Jägermeister energy drink, of course they have been very popular at parties for years, and admittedly, I used to drink them a lot too. I lived in Moscow for 3.5 years. Of course there was vodka, Red Bull, etc. From a medical perspective, now that I'm smarter than I used to be when I was young and naive and ignorant, I think mixing energy drinks and alcohol is a really bad idea. Why? For 2 reasons. Firstly, alcohol dehydrates you because you have to go to the toilet more often and urinate. And the fact that caffeine also has a weak diuretic effect is not yet fully understood. But at least we know that alcohol causes it. And point number 2, you overestimate yourself more quickly. That's crucial. Alcohol leads to slower reactions and a lack of concentration. Energy drinks, however, disguise this effect and give you a boost. So you think to yourself, I'm fine, I'm fully awake, I'm fully fit, then I can have another glass, maybe I can even drive a car. But at the same time, the alcohol also has an effect. This study also shows that people tend to overestimate their abilities with energy drinks. And that can quickly end up on the next tree. Loss of performance instead of new energy, energy drinks and sport. And now we come to the core element of energy drinks, the increase in athletic performance. To be honest, I'm often surprised that athletes and professional athletes advertise energy drinks. With the ingredients and above all the sugar content, the use in sport is perhaps obvious on the one hand, to get energy, to get pumped up. On the other hand, we know that this is not healthy. And if you do a lot of sport, you also live a body-conscious lifestyle. Some energy drink manufacturers deliberately advertise that their product can help you achieve higher performance in sports. You probably know the advertising. In my opinion, energy drinks are not very suitable for sports. Sugar does provide energy, of course, but only for a very short time. It is often sucrose, as in table sugar. There is a steep increase in energy when you take it, but then again a very rapid decline. So you have to make sure that you keep adding sugar so that you don't get into this breakdown phase and then end up with a hunger pang. The effect does not last long enough for most sports. The sugar content is also significantly too high to be consumed during exercise. Sports drinks with 6 to 8% are considered optimal. Why? Because this can of course also cause digestive problems, especially if you are putting a lot of strain on your body at the time. However, energy drinks often contain around 11% sugar. Also important, energy drinks contain hardly any salt. This is especially important in endurance sports, in order to get the lost salts back through sweating, etc. But salt is not in the energy drink. The caffeine in the energy drink sometimes causes an increase in performance during anaerobic activities, such as high stress without sufficient oxygen supply to the muscles. Yes, it can improve performance, so to speak, but I would recommend simply drinking an espresso half an hour beforehand. The effect only lasts for 1 to 2 hours. There are big individual differences, but then it turns into the opposite, namely a performance deficit. That's why it's important to only take a high level of caffeine before training or before a competition if the competition is relatively short. This is important. You can of course get used to the increased caffeine content, and you will then need a higher and higher dose to increase your performance. And then you also have the problem that symptoms such as headaches, irritability, perhaps digestive problems, etc. develop at some point, especially when you put a lot of strain on your body. Deaths from energy drinks. And as I have already mentioned briefly, we keep hearing in the media about children and young people who are believed to have died from energy drinks. So, are energy drinks deadly? Even if they are not particularly healthy, I think we now understand that. But of course, you can't say that across the board. It was often children and young people who drank an above-average number of energy drinks. So, not just 1 or 2, but really many. Like a 19-year-old from the USA who drank 2017 2 liters of the drink within 24 hours and died. But you can think about it, 2 liters. I think 0.2 liters are often in a can, then that's 10 of the small cans. Or children with heart defects, like a 14-year-old girl from the USA. We know that she actually died of a heart attack after 2 energy drinks within 24 hours. In the USA, it must also be said, significantly higher doses of caffeine and other harmful ingredients such as bromine are permitted in energy drinks than in this country. So you have to know that our rules are actually stricter. Yes, of course, these are isolated cases, but they show the possible damage and you should be aware of that. My personal impression is that energy drinks are often viewed as soft drinks and trivialized like a soda. And of course, that can be dangerous. And yes, for healthy adults who, given the caffeine content, are allowed to drink 5 cans of 250 milliliters each a day, this may not be so bad at first, as we have enough buffer. But children and young people in particular are already at their daily limit with 1 or 2 doses. And you often don't even realize that because it tastes good too. And of course, you also have to add hidden caffeine. That's what people often forget. Cola, tea and chocolate are also full of caffeine. How this will all play out in the long term is not yet clear and will definitely be of greater concern to us in the coming decades. The bad thing, so to speak, is often the hidden ingredients that you are not even aware of. What you should know at the end: energy drinks are not inherently dangerous, and as is often the case, the dose makes the poison. Too much coffee and too much alcohol are certainly unhealthy. However, there is nothing healthy about alcohol. Alcohol is poison. Energy drinks contain a lot of ingredients that are simply unnecessary for your body. We all know that the high sugar content causes many long-term health problems. Also taurine, whose effect has not been sufficiently proven. So here you can see all the possible disadvantages again. Sure, the bottom line is that everyone can and should decide for themselves whether and how often they use the cans. But it definitely doesn't give you any wings. It's really good marketing for how energy drinks have developed over time. On the contrary, the negative circumstances outweigh the positive ones. And from a medical point of view, I would always prefer a cold glass of water. If there is a warning on the cans that it is not suitable for children and pregnant women, then all other groups should of course also think twice. Why does it say that? Why are these risk groups explicitly mentioned? Because it is not good for our bodies? And now let's be honest. If so, how often do you drink an energy drink? Why do you drink it? Please write it directly under the video. Thank you very much and stay loyal to me.